Lumi could do all of that work for them if they know to ask that question. And that's potentially saving a really long time of effort, especially in our case. As we roll this out, how do I also then get people to think like that? That's a change management problem. But the fact that Lumi could understand the question and then generate that analysis with some actual data was really powerful and exciting for sure. So I'm Jordan Kuhns, the director of the internal IT portfolio team at GROWMARK. GROWMARK's an agriculture cooperative based in the Midwest, and my team is essentially in charge of all of the internal IT applications that we use to do business with our customers and our member companies. So that's, the heavy hitters that you would expect. SAP and ServiceNow are in our portfolio. We do a wide variety of custom software engineering for a variety of reasons and purposes to support our business. And then the data and analytics teams also roll up to me. So we do, data curation and the functional requirements that come with that, and then also some static reporting in tools like Tableau and SAP Business Objects as well. It really felt like there was something really compelling that deserved a second look. So, we hooked up after that initial introduction and gave a quick overview of Lumi. Since then, we were just basically at the point of we should probably take a closer look at this because it sounds really interesting. It sounds really kind of top of mind and current, and there's some potentially real problems or pain points that it could solve for us long term if it works as you kind of said it did. So I think we're probably a lot like any other business or organization in today's day and age, right? We had numerous different ways to get access to the data that we have in a variety of systems. And sometimes those ways of getting access or running those reports probably depended on what system you were interacting with or where that data lived, right? So over the years, we had static reports built, scheduled reports, kind of Excel-based reports. We started to grow into Tableau and look at some dashboarding and visual analytics. But over time, all of those things really start to pile up. And it really just requires a lot of tribal knowledge to understand, like, where do I go to find the answer to the question that I'm looking for? It's probably pretty well understood when you are the one who built those reports, but as people get promoted and move to different parts of the company, that really starts to get lost and become a little bit of a challenge in terms of how to get the answers that you're looking for. So that was kind of one of the bigger pain points. And I would say we were actively in the middle of building out a data lake and trying to bring a lot of our data together. So it wasn't necessarily a challenge, but it was probably really well timed to have that conversation because we were establishing that foundational layer of our data as well that would end up paying dividends as we set Lumi up with you guys for the first time. And it slows things down, right? I mean, if I have to go looking for the right report, it's maybe going to take me longer to get that answer, or maybe restrict my ability to get new information or new insights out of the data that we have in our systems. And worst case scenario, it potentially results in people getting the wrong answer to the question because they maybe grabbed a report that was looking at inventory data and not accounting level data or whatever the situation is, right? So all of those things really start to compound and become challenging without the right controls or tools in place to take care of them. I mean, at first blush in the initial pilot, it was very obvious that it would take care of a lot of the challenges because we were immediately had so many ideas of where Lumi could help with this. So, just the ability to, if you have a question and Lumi is hooked up to the data set that you need, or ideally future state all of our data in the environment, just ask the question that you're needing rather than going out and trying to find the right folder with the report that you need and refresh it and make sure it wasn't, used last year, so you have to update some filters or, reset the prompt, the criteria in the query or whatever it might be. So that was really kind of the first thing that struck us is, wow, you could just ask, right? Don't necessarily worry about going and looking for it. And then based on it being able to run on our data lake environment with data sets that ideally future state are curated and validated that they are accurate, it helps inspire that confidence of we are managing this data set in the background, and Lumi is just interacting with that, so we can have that much more confidence that the result is going to be more accurate versus potentially a report that somebody has created and we hope they got the query correct and their filters correct so that the data is accurate as well, right? So it kind of gives us more confidence there as well. Hard to choose. There's a couple different things I'll think, kind of top of mind. For GROWMARK specifically, we host the accounting software or ERP for all of our member companies. Since we're a cooperative, that's kind of an IT service that we provide for our members. And each one of those systems is identical in terms of the software that it is and the way that the database is structured, but they all kind of use the system slightly differently because they are their own independent companies at the end of the day, right? We don't control them like a corporation would a branch or anything like that. So one of the things that got me excited about Lumi was the ability to have all of that data connected in the background and add the context to the knowledge base of, in this data set, this customer actually doesn't follow the process the same. So I'm going to give a little bit of context in there to say, for this customer in this instance, you can't, follow the same rules as the other databases, or, add those exceptions in, or even something so simple as specifying their fiscal year is slightly different. So if I'm talking to you about that customer and I mention fiscal year, automatically adjust the dates because they follow a different calendar. There's endless examples of that I could probably come up with today, but just the context that you can add in the knowledge base was really exciting. In the data model itself, the ability to potentially to even add context on the individual tables or fields that you've set up in your data model is really helpful because we don't currently, with where we're at in our process, have a data catalog or an area to put that information. So like, what is a product ID in this database? Well, I can explain that really quickly with some context. So A, the human can see it if they want to, but B, the Lumi as it runs queries can understand the data as well. So some of those things get me excited even just from like the back end of the tool and what it's capable of. And then I start to get really excited too about just the time it could save. And just the ability to help prevent people from having to go digging for reports will be really useful as well. The final thing that I think really excites me, and we saw this in our pilot, was I think we asked a question about like price sensitivity, right? And when you guys were showing us that, it was like, I'm sure somebody at GROWMARK thinks in terms of price sensitivity and those other metrics or KPIs that you might learn in business school. But GROWMARK doesn't have data scientists or anybody sitting down here in our IT division helping do that level of statistical analysis on our data. We just have the data, right? We're kind of a classic reporting based company. That's how we run our business. So the idea that if somebody has the idea or the concept of one of those KPIs or metrics that could help us make better decisions, like price sensitivity in the pilot, Lumi could do all of that work for them if they know to ask that question. And that's potentially saving a really long time of effort, especially in our case when we don't have that skill set necessarily on staff today, digging into problems like that. So that was really kind of exciting too. It created excitement, but also an interesting change management problem of, as we roll this out, how do I also then get people to think like that? That's a change management problem. But the fact that Lumi could understand the question and then generate that analysis with some actual data was really powerful and exciting for sure. Yeah, and I think we talked about this a couple times during the pilot as well. We've been kicking around additional data governance efforts at GROWMARK, right? How do we understand lineage and control accuracy and definitions, and where do we get that catalog and that semantic layer? And we always hit the roadblock or the speed bump of who's going to keep this all up to date. And Lumi, I think, was the first light bulb for several people of like, you could keep that up to date, that context, all of that information, semantic information about what the data means. You can keep it up to date. It becomes a spot where we could go reference it again in the future. And Lumi can use it to answer your questions better. So then it gave us like a tangible reason to go invest the time in filling all that out, because that's work, right? We don't have it today. It's going to be a lot of work to fill out the knowledge base and the context on all these things. But now at least we have a good reason, because every time we add something, Lumi should be that much better at answering the next question. So it gives us that carrot to actually put the work in there. Yeah. I feel like I would just say, like, if you need something, just ask. Don't worry about going and looking for it. I think that's probably what I would say, especially as I think about senior leadership that maybe don't have the day-to-day knowledge of where to get data and information. Like if we empowered them with a tool like Lumi, just to say, like, if you're with a customer and you have a very specific question about something and we've hooked it up to that, like, instead of sending a Teams message to somebody to figure that out and help you with it in the moment, like, just ask it, let Lumi go get the answer while you continue your conversation, and then you should have that insight, right? So just that concept of just asking, I think, is probably how I talk about it to people. Probably our focus is initial rollout at this point, right? We had a successful pilot. We've hooked it up to numerous data sets. And what's next is really just doing a measured, controlled rollout so that we can help effectively work people through the change management curve that's going to come with it, right? We have to teach people about the tool, explain the data that's connected in the back end, help them understand, like, just basic prompting, like how to work with it and what types of things can you ask it. So that's probably what's next. Once we get through a large SAP project, we'll probably look at incorporating more of our SAP data to it as well, so it becomes more of a holistic tool. And then that will probably help us broaden the rollout to more and more people as well, because then it will be pretty universal in terms of the data that it will have at its fingertips. So those are probably our two areas, and those could take us a while, right? We want to be careful with the rollout so we keep people's trust and make sure that they know how to use it so they get good results, and then expand the data so that more and more people can hop on that phased rollout as we keep moving.